right. It is 103. We might have a few folks, a few extra folks joining us here and there, which is fine. But let's jump in and get started with this. Um, Most of you know me already. If you don't, my name is Brad Sims. I'm a senior instructional designer here in the Department of eLearning. And today we're going to go over some video best practices for online learning. And this is going to be some tips and tricks about how to most effectively use videos in your courses, both the best practice side and then some technical kind of tips and tricks and things like that for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the very first thing that I want to go over is just some real basics about um, what you would think about when you're creating your presentation and you're choosing a presentation format. So we've got a few options. The most common is to do something with a PowerPoint slideshow. So you've already made your PowerPoint. You've got all of your slides. I'm going to use PowerPoint. You could use Google Slides or whatever other presentation software you're using, but you know what I mean. Um, so if you're using a presentation as your background, there's a few options within that. PowerPoint, for example, and most of the other ones will let you do just a voiceover. The nice pros and cons to that, it's super easy to do. You basically just turn your mic on and narrate over your slide presentation. Super simple. Um, the cons with that, the downside of that is that there's not as much student connection. There's not as much interaction as what you give them when you let them see you. And that's a key point of engagement that we like to stress, particularly in the online environment. We, from the earliest instances of doing this online teaching and online courseware thing, we've heard back from students very consistently over the last almost 2 decades now that we've really been doing this, um, how important that is and how much they appreciate being able to see you, their professor. So in a pinch, the voiceover over a PowerPoint works great. It's again super easy to do, easy to once you've got that PowerPoint slideshow, just sit down and record that as you go through. Um, but you lose that little bit of personal connection with the student. The next is picture in picture or PIP. It's also convenient, really easy to do, can be done in your home or office using a variety of softwares. We'll talk about things like Camtasia um, a little bit later and some of the other software ways to do this. You can even do it through Zoom now, Zoom or Google Meet. Use that as your way to do this. It's nice and casual and personable. It lets people see you and kind of make that connection with you. And it's, like I said, it's usually pretty easy to do and convenient. The cons to that is that the quality of the video of you can be, and also the audio can be kind of low quality and a little bit unflattering. One of the things about most webcams is they're so tiny, and you've probably noticed this before, that it sort of flattens us and pancakes our faces a little bit. Um, Not that big of a problem. I think it's not a deal killer, but the smaller you go with that picture in picture, the less or the more of that low quality you're going to get. It's a that is a good middle trade-off though for having you in the picture and your PowerPoint as well. The next option down there is a green screen, which we'll talk about that at the very end. We do have a studio here in Dickinson Hall in 101, which is where I am right now. And the pros to that, it looks very, very professional. We have a 4K camera, we have lights, we have the green screen, we have the full setup here. The audio is better, the video is just fantastic. And some of you have used this before. It's a really great way to get more student connection and engagement. Of course, the cons with that, you got to schedule it with us to use the lab equipment. It takes longer to produce. There's a lot more steps of it, mostly on our part, which is fine with us. We love doing these and love creating these for you. but it does, the turnaround time on that is not as quick as any of these other pieces here. Moving on, choosing another format without a PowerPoint. You can do in-class lecture recordings. You can throw a camera up somewhere in your classroom and record the whole thing from start to finish. That's a direct recording of exactly what you presented in your class. And you can use that over and over again. So if you record it once in one semester, you'll have that lecture. Here's the problem with that. Without the lights, without all of the good controlled setting of a studio, the production quality is much lower and much lower than you would think it would be. More importantly, though, it's too long. And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Asking students to sit in on an hour or an hour and a half of you talking in front of the classroom, students aren't going to do it. They just that's the fact. They will skip it or skip ahead or cut pieces out, and they're going to miss some of it, and they're going to miss some of the key points that you want them to get to. But we're going to talk about some really great best practices for alternatives to that. And the other thing there that I've got listed in our cons is kind of boring. Just it's one thing to be there in the class and be engaged, um, more or less, but sitting there and watching someone, with a camera in the back of the classroom is not the most engaging. Um, we've also got the option of doing a live demo or an sort of an over the shoulder where the camera is looking directly down at your hands, doing a hands-on demonstration. And that's great for things like writing out math and science equations. If you have something that's very linear and has a lot of steps to it, and you need to show exactly those steps, um, excuse me, that's a good option. And it's really easy to do on location. You can set up a camera there to either be shooting behind you as you're writing on a board or shooting over your shoulder to get uh, uh, your handwriting. The cons with that is it does need a good camera and lights and a background setup. You have to make sure that all that stuff is evenly lit. And lighting is going to be something that I mentioned a million times today. Super crucially important. But that is something to consider. Having that good camera looking over your shoulder or shooting from behind you as you're writing on that whiteboard is crucial for that. Um, the next part is third-party recordings. You don't have to reinvent the wheel with a lot of this. There's a lot of open educational resource recordings out there. They're easy to find on YouTube or from your textbook publishers or from some of the OER resource sites that both we can share with you and help you find. The library here on campus, we just did an OER presentation a week, 2 weeks ago. And we talked about all of this kind of stuff. But video is definitely something that fits in that set of open educational resources. And we absolutely encourage you to go out and find some of those. These things are usually really well produced. They often dovetail really well with a specific, either a textbook publisher, so it's already part of your lesson from your textbook, um, or it's very much professionally done adjacent to the stuff that you're already teaching. And the format is usually pretty familiar to students, right? They know exactly what to expect, and when they see those types of educational resources like that from third-party recordings. Um, a couple of things with the cons of that is copyright can be kind of questionable. You have to make sure that you're using materials that aren't under restrict copyright. Um, but the other one, and this is key, again, we talked about this earlier, but that removes you, the instructor, and your face and your personality, and you as the subject matter expert in this instance, uh, from the course. Now, there are other ways around that, or there are other ways to put yourself into your lessons so that you don't necessarily have to rely on one or the other, and you don't have to exclude these third-party recordings just so that you can have recordings of yourself. So there's plenty of places in your courses to do everything from little short videos at the top of your learning module or the top of your lesson that gives them a video overview, or Other examples, having video as part of your discussion, where you ask them the question via video and ask for them to either respond via text or video. So there's lots of other ways to put you into the course. Um, but relying strictly on these third-party recordings kind of does have that con of removing that downside of removing you from the learning. Um, Now here's the big one. If you don't take away anything else from today, if you sleep through the rest of the other parts of this, please pay attention to this because this is huge. Optimal video length. Back in 2023, Philip Guo, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He was at the time the assistant professor of computer science at University of Rochester. He did a study. He set a bunch of students down and monitored how they interacted with online video in courses. And he timed them and saw when they started, when they stopped, how much they watched, when they sped up, when they skipped, all of these kinds of things. And his takeaway, he says, the take home message for instructors is that to maximize student engagement, they should work with instructional designers and video producers to break up their lectures into small, bite sized pieces. And we're going to talk about that. Specifically, he wrote out guidelines for optimal student duration or optimal video duration. The top of that threshold is about 6 minutes. After 6 minutes, students just don't watch. Students average about only 3 minutes of a 12-minute recording. The big takeaway is don't go over 12 minutes. The longer the video, the less likely students will be to watch the whole thing. So that means that we have to think about how we present these things differently. We're not standing at the front of the class at a podium for an hour or an hour and a half or however long your course traditionally is. And we don't have one big, giant, long PowerPoint presentation or set of things that we're doing on the board that are going to translate well to these online courses. So we have to rethink what that PowerPoint looks like, for example. And here's an example. We want you to chunk your topics. So don't record that hour-long lecture on one topic. Divide it up into smaller pieces, bite-sized pieces, as we say. And here's an example. I picked American National Government class as my example here. And say your lesson is on the three branches of the U.S. government. So you could record, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 videos. I think I did that right. You could record 8 videos. So part 1 of the three branches of government is just an overview of all of it, where you name all the branches and you talk a little bit about the history of how they came to be, where it's written out in the Constitution, for example. Then part 2, you talk about the executive branch and you tell all the stuff that, briefly within about that 6 minutes of what it does. Now, if you've got a lot more to say about the executive branch, consider a couple of ideas. One, consider breaking it down into more than one. So you've got a first part, like we've done here on the legislative branch. You've got an overview of the legislative branch, and then a second video within that's part 3B of the House of Representatives, and then a third that's part 3C about the Senate and how those work. Or if these specific topics, if you're finding out that these specific topics are much bigger than a 8-part set of 6-minute videos, then you could break these out into that. That's a good sign that this probably needs to be its own lesson, right? So you might spend an entire lesson of just about the executive branch and all of the moving parts of it, right? And the history of it. Same thing down there at the judicial branch. You would give an overview of the judicial, then a second video that's about specifically the Supreme Court, and then maybe talk about the lower courts in a third video. I've got 8 here, but there's no reason in the world that you couldn't have more than that. You could have as many videos to cover your topic. And if you're thinking about putting them into chunks of about 6 minutes each, you probably will have a bunch of, a bunch more of these little short videos. But that's the key: shortness, directness. You're not creating a big, long, directly connected narrative in one long swoop. You're creating your narrative about the whole lesson from a bunch of smaller pieces that fit together, and also a bunch of small pieces that build on one another. So part two builds on everything, on the overview that you gave them in part one. Part three, you're referencing how that interacts, the legislative branch interacts with the executive branch, and so on and so on. So think about linearity, think about how you would step through a narrative like this. And most importantly, think about how you would get those into small chunks, short chunks that are within about 6 minutes long. And I know a lot of you are already looking at that going, wow, there's no way I can get all of my big concepts into these small chunks. I promise you that there are ways to do this, and we are happy to work with you to talk about how to break those down. Now, I'm using 6 minutes here. 6 minutes is optimal. You can go up to 12 minutes if you need to, if you've really got something that needs to be chunked, or crunched into 12 or so minutes or less, between 6 and 12. That's okay, but it's not optimal, and we don't want to use that as our crutch and always rely on that, because as we saw from that study, students just don't watch it. They just don't engage with it. And that's still that study is 12 years old. I would be willing to bet that if that professor did that research again and redid that study, that he would find that those numbers might have even gone down. Students, we're all, not just students, but we're all we've learned the skill of skipping ahead. We've learned how to move that little piece forward, um, to get to the bits that are most important to us and the pieces that we want the most. Let's see. I see a question here from Dr. Chris. Um, if they won't open longer videos, what makes them open more videos? That's a great point. I think that the key to uh, getting them to watch shorter videos, and multiple shorter videos, is that they can stop and start and do these bite-sized chunks. We do see, even within the new format in Ultra, I think that one of the nice things about it and the way that it lays things out, again, sequentially from top to bottom, where we're asking students to step through a lot of those pieces, at least it's designed for that. Um, we we do, I think we do see it where they will interact with one piece, move on to the next piece, maybe go do something else, come back. And I think that's key to this. You're right that if they come to a page and they're overwhelmed with 50 videos, that's huge. That's going to be very overwhelming. And so we need to think about being really judicious. I've got judicial branch here on my screen, so it's in my head. Very judicious about how we time those things and just how much we're giving them. Also, keep in mind, and this is really important, um, when we're in a face-to-face class environment, we do a lot more through just talking. We take that for granted when we're in an online environment. But the nice thing about an online environment is we're able to pull all of these other resources in together, right? So it's not just 10 videos that are 6 minutes long to cover your hour, right? We've got the videos, we've got the all the extra materials and things like that, maybe videos from other sources, a lot of other pieces that mix and match to create a lesson in our courses, in our ultra course, for example, that's part of that learning module. Um, so it's really about how we mix and match all of those things, because we're not relying solely on being that voice at the front of the class that's giving that lecture. We're trying to, ideally, we would want to mix in all of those pieces of media, all those artifacts, whether they be PDFs, podcasts, videos of us giving the lesson and the lecture like this, or videos from a third party, or other types of videos that we've created. The idea there is that we want to mesh all of those together so we're not relying on 10, 20, way too many videos probably. And there's a balance there. It's something that we have to uh, uh, take a big look at what we're putting into our course and how we're trying to get that information out. And again, the instructional design team here, we are happy to work with you to try to fine tune that as to the best way that we can. Um, all right, moving on, and this is part of that, how to engage students. Although this, excuse me, um, this is more about your presentation and your style of presentation than anything else. First and foremost, well, before even I get to the bullet points here, the key thing here that I don't have on this is that you are the subject matter expert for your class. You are the authority on this. Remember that as you're doing these presentations. Here's what I get a lot. Um, and this feeds into the next 2 points here of practice your presentation and don't read bullet points. I get a lot of people who come here to the studio and they have a PowerPoint that's all their whole lesson that they want to do. It's, properly chunked in and everything looks great. They fire it up here on the computer that we're recording from, that we'll be recording from here in the studio. There's a camera in front of them, all the lights are on around them, and then they start reading and adding nothing to anything that they're saying about this. And it's almost as if they have completely forgotten that they know what they're talking about. So my key bit of uh, uh, advice that I give to them is do this pretty casually. Use the bullets on the PowerPoint as your talking points, not as your narrative. Practice your presentation, run through it a couple of times beforehand, of course, so you know what's coming up. Don't read those bullet points. Um, Students just respond, as I've got here. Respond more favorably to recorded lectures when the instructor chooses a more conversational tone, where you're just kind of having a chat with them the same way that you would if you were in front of the classroom for face to face. That gives you that social presence. It makes you seem like a real person, which we want that with your students. We want them to see who you are and be comfortable with you. The next point is a little more of a technical thing. Keep it simple. Keep your, and this is not only for online video, but in general for presentations. Limit your bullet points to 3 to 6 per slide. And I think I've broken that rule right here with all of these sub bullet points, but you get the idea. Again, as I mentioned earlier, use the PowerPoint and the bullet points in PowerPoint in your presentation as a cue, as a springboard for you to remind you of what to talk about next, and then elaborate on it all through your narrative lesson, rather than just reading these big blocks of text that are paragraphs. The last thing with this, and this is the last piece of this, uh, choose a theme and stick with it. I see a lot of instructors come in and they'll do multiple recording sessions for multiple weeks of their courses here in the studio. And their first PowerPoint theme will be UALR school colors. And then the next one will be a blue background with these sort of light effects shining in. And then the third one will be a different color with angles and all of these kinds of things. That's fine. It's not a sticking point here. You're not going to be marked off on the exam for doing that. But the having basically creating a brand for yourself, and that could be the brand of the institution. We have slide decks, slide themes that the Office of Communications has created, that you can use consistently and kind of mix those out if you want to, some variety, because they're all branded to a similar kind of theme. But I do encourage you to find something that works for you and stick with that so that your students recognize it and recognize you in it. I think I might have seen another hand, but I don't seem to be able to get there. Um, Esma, was there another, or did someone else make a comment there? I can't seem to get uh to my other tab.
No, it's me.
Okay, okay, that's fine. Um, some other best practices. Um, Communication is key, as with everything in our online classes. We need to constantly be reminded and constantly remember what I said earlier, that there's so much that we take for granted, that we do in a live face-to-face class, that we just forget to do or think, or we assume that the students are going to know when they're in our online classes. And any of you who've worked with me before have heard me use the word pedantic over and over again. You almost have to be pedantic with students and with what you're telling them about how to interact with your course. And video is absolutely that way. We want to let them know what we expect here. We want to tell them before you watch this, here, tell them where the videos are. You'll find these videos in lesson 3 inside module 2, or in lesson 3 below in this module, if you're talking about that in the overview, or if it's part of a homework assignment. The homework assignment lays out, watch this video and write a 10-page paper about it. Here's where that video is. Or here's the link directly to it right there in the assignment. When should students watch this? Do they need to watch it before the test, after the test? Do they need to talk about everything in the discussion and then watch the video, or watch the video and then talk about the video in the discussion? All of those things matter, and being very, very, very precise and clear about all of our instructions about what we want them to do with it goes a long, long way towards making students less confused, keeping them on task better, keeping them better connected, and basically in with what you want them to do. That's the same thing with post viewing. What should they do next? Are there reflection questions? Is there a discussion board? Is there an assignment that goes with the video that you ask them to watch? It's we the a lot of times we make the mistake of just recording ourselves wherever we are, making our recording, sitting at our kitchen table or in our office, and it's a little short mini lesson, and we upload that lesson, or maybe it's a long, super huge lesson. We upload that lesson and put it on, and we don't tell students anything about it. They just find it, and we assume that we know what they're going to do. What we assume that they know what we want them to do with it, and often they don't. Um, and when they do, it's just because we've got it there and there's nothing else for them to do, so they just watch that video, and maybe there's instructions, maybe there's not. Um, so definitely clear communication with both video, but with everything that you do in your course. If you're asking them to do an assignment, give them very, very specific, pedantic kind of instructions about what you want them to do and where and when and how. Um, the next bit is include a PDF of your PowerPoint or the actual PowerPoint file in the course with your video. This has several reasons. One speaks to the different types of learners and the way that people learn. Some people just like having that. They love to use it. Some students love to use that as their reference point to either follow along or to make notes on from the presentation that you've created that goes along with your video. The other thing is an accessibility thing. If, for example, you have a video, and even if you've done all of the accessibility pieces correctly in it, like subtitles and closed captioning and things like that, still having that PDF along with it to let students see those points and interact with those points, maybe with a screen reader if they need it. They won't be able to use a screen reader for if your PowerPoint is behind you in your video, but they will be able to use the screen reader on the actual PowerPoint file or the PDF version of that file. So it's little things like that, both for accessibility and engagement, that go a long way for your students. Um, let's see, reference video content directly in class, emails, and related assignments. What I mean by that is if you've created a video, or 5 or 6 or 8 videos that are in this week's lesson, this learning module or this chapter that you're teaching in your online class. Reference that. Reference it in your overview in your learning module and say, there's a video to watch, and here's what it's about, and here's what I want you to do with it. Reference it in the assignment. Um, watch the video below here in this learning module or here in this assignment, and do X, Y, and Z with it. When you send out emails to your students, which you definitely should be doing throughout the week, and you're telling them what to expect in class or any other kind of communications like that, not necessarily emails, but you're saying things to them, referencing these videos, and again, what you expect from them, uh, what you want them to do, and what they need to do to complete that assignments or that module successfully. Um, some other useful extras. This is where we talk about the software. Pardon me. I'm getting over a kind of a seasonal change cold thing, so I'm all gargly and all that. So I apologize. Um, but jumping into this piece, software. Uh, Camtasia is a fantastic app that you install on your computer. You do need a license for it, but licenses are not expensive at all for it. You can get multi-seat license so that multiple people in your organization, in your department rather, um, can access it and share it. Um, the uh, the great thing about it is it's dead simple to use. It's got a lot of bells and whistles, but the real big feature of it is that it's got a big fat red button that you push to record things. And then it's got, it usually the default is to record your screen and to record a picture in picture of you. So you've got two layers. One's the little small picture in picture that's sort of postage stamp size, give or take. Then you've got the whole PowerPoint or whatever you're doing on your screen, and it's a live recording of your screen. So you can also use it for things like walking. If you're doing a course tour for the beginning of your course, you can use Camtasia to record you walking through and narrating the navigational elements of your course, where everything is, where you expect students to go, and how you expect them to interact with the class. And you can have that all recorded right there in Camtasia with you in the picture in picture and your voiceover. You can get rid of the picture in picture. You can fade it in and out. It also works with a green screen. They have green screen capability in there in Camtasia that's, again, dead simple, super easy to use. You can cut out pieces. So if you if you're at home recording and your doorbell rings and you get an Amazon package and you have to stop for a second and go, or your phone rings or whatever, you can come back, keep recording, chop those pieces out and edit those. It's again super, super simple tools to do very basic, straightforward editing there in on your computer. Kaltura also has some of these. Kaltura is, I like to call it our embedded version of sort of our embedded sort of YouTube within our Blackboard. We subscribe to Kaltura. All of you have a Kaltura account in your instance of Blackboard, so all of your courses have it. Um, it has a shared library, so if you record something for one class or in one class, you can use it in any of your other classes and mix and match those back and forth. Um, it has a Kaltura gallery. There are multiple ways to put video into it. You can record the video somewhere else, like Camtasia, and upload that video file in. You can record it right there in the screen, and it will do a similar, though not quite as robust version of recording your screen and doing the picture in picture and the voiceover and all that kind of stuff. Um, and there's also even Kaltura has a video quiz kind of thing, an interactive quiz where you're having a video and you can stop the video from time to time and have it uh, pop up a question that the students uh, need to ask. I do see a question there. I found the chat. Sean asks, is the default for picture-in-picture Kaltura the instructor's face and not the PowerPoint screen? This is super annoying and it forces the watcher to physically change during the playback. Um, I do not know. I think that we have put that request for change in, but we don't, it's a third party app it's a third party integration into our Blackboard. And so we're really at the mercy of whatever they decide to do on their end. Yeah, I hear you. I totally agree with you. It is kind of a pain and kind of confusing, and a lot of people don't like it simply for that. Um, that said, it Kaltura is still an easy go-to. I typically like recording in Camtasia. In fact, if you work with us down here in the studio where I am right now, we're going to record your screen and one set of voice without the picture in picture. We're going to use Camtasia to capture what you're doing on the screen in your PowerPoint, and then we're going to use another camera, a bigger, higher quality camera that's sitting right there in front of me, um, to actually record you. And then we're going to merge those two with the green screen, which conveniently brings me to this next option here, Adobe Premiere Pro. This is Adobe's flagship video production software. There are other things out there that are comparable to Adobe Premiere Pro. Several of them, some of which are free. DaVinci Resolve is a great one. Premiere Pro, you do have to have the subscription to Adobe that includes that. Um, but Premiere Pro lets you do literally movie quality, blockbuster film quality stuff. And my workflow, just very briefly here, is I'll bring you down here into the studio and record your screen with Camtasia. I'll record you with the big Sony camera that's in front of me there. After we're done, I'll take those two pieces, knock out the green screen from behind your camera recording, put that full screen, your PowerPoint or your whatever your screen recording is, put that behind you, merge those two together, sync everything up with the audio and video from both of those tracks. And then you have this really, really nice, high quality, very crisp and clear video of you going through your lecture or your whatever. Um, but as I mentioned earlier, or I don't know if that's in, if I've covered this or not, um, that process takes time. As I mentioned, one of the pros of doing it just at your kitchen table with Camtasia or Kaltura, or even just any other simpler things that you have with your webcam. Those are pretty much instant. When you're done recording them, you can hit the stop button. It might take a few minutes to process, but then it's done, and you might have to upload it to Kaltura if you didn't record in Kaltura. And by the way, our YouTube accounts here on campus that are part of our Blackboard. That's another option for either uploading, which I've got down here in the sharing and services. You can record with YouTube as well, although it has its own set of specific little tools within its recording software, its recording suite, that are a little bit that are similar but different from Kaltura, and similar and different from Camtasia. Um, but if you do come here to the studio, we'll do the big production. And that does take longer. It's not that instant sitting at your desk with your webcam. Using that Adobe Premiere Pro, it's got a lot more steps to it. I have to transfer the video, save it online, merge those two, correct colors, do all these kinds of things, knock out make sure the lighting is all right. So it takes a little more time, but you get a much, much, much better, it's the highest quality that we can do here on campus, at least, unless someone else has a studio somewhere else that's got even more bells and whistles than I do. Um, very briefly, file formats. There are tons of file formats out there. The two main ones that we typically use are MOV and MP4. In fact, I tend to go MP4 almost exclusively. I might record in one format or standard, um, and you might see lots of different little bone jumble of letters that make acronyms, letters and numbers, AVI, HC, VD, HCDV, um, lots of different ones. And those are either proprietary to a type of software, or those are codecs that do the basic raw recording that you then can compile and then put out into MP4 format or MOV format. And the reason that we typically go to MP4 and MOV, a couple of reasons. They compress really well, so they can get a high quality image and a high quality for streaming without it being a huge, gigantic file size. Although, just a warning, video files are big. Another thing that you're going to have to consider with these, if you're going to save them, is where you're going to keep your originals if you decide to go back and want to archive them. You can put them into Google Drive. If you have a ton of these, Google Drive is going to fill up pretty quickly because they're huge. Uh, but we output those to this MP4 or MOV format because you can get smaller files with good quality, and that's typically what things like Kaltura, YouTube, any of these other ones. That's what they're expecting you to upload. That's the format that they're expecting for you to send to them. On sharing services, as I mentioned already, Kaltura and Blackboard. Uh, that's your simplest, most basic. There's lots of ways to get YouTube videos, both yours or things from a third party, something that someone else has recorded. There's lots of ways to get those YouTube videos into your Blackboard course. We can help you with that, step you through the process. I've got some video explainers or little how-to sheets for both how to get your videos from Kaltura into your Ultra course, and also videos from your YouTube. As I mentioned, we do have our email account is a Gmail account here at UALR. We're a Google Enterprise campus. And so with our email account, you have a YouTube account, and you can make multiple profiles. So you can have one that's your personal stuff. You can have one that's for your entire program. You can have one channel, as they call them, for just one specific class, and filter all of your videos into each one of those, and kind of organize them that way. You can create playlists. You can do all the stuff that you can do and that you see people do on YouTube. Um, the pros and cons of that, one pro is that we already have that, and we it doesn't take up any extra file space or memory. Whereas Kaltura, we have a lot of space in Kaltura, but we have to constantly manage how much stuff is in there and how much memory, how much space we bought. I assume YouTube is similar, but that's something that IT services handles, and they can figure that out. Uh, as that's a bridge they can cross when they get to it. Um, the other thing is students understand YouTube. There will be no confusion if you have your your video uploaded to YouTube and you're sharing it with your students that way. And lastly, you can set your permissions very easily in YouTube to be completely open so that anybody can search for your video and find it, or where they can only get to it via the link only, or you can even set it to private and make it password protected if you really need to do that. And lastly, there's Google Drive for sharing. You can upload your videos directly to Google Drive and then share the link to them. That When you do that, it automatically converts them to YouTube videos that are only within your Google Drive, but it's using the YouTube player and the YouTube wrapper for it. It's not on its own separate YouTube channel. It's just using the YouTube player within your Google Drive. And you'll see that if you've ever uploaded an MOV or an MP4 to Google Drive and you go back and click on it, it's got the little red YouTube logo, and all the buttons look exactly the same. Lastly, there on this page, I've got AI tools question mark dot dot dot. I could do a whole second. In fact, I do a presentation and a training like this that's specifically about AI tools. We just had one of those a couple of weeks ago. If you attended that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, there is not enough time in this whole. We've got another 15 minutes left, and there's still not enough time for me to go into the AI tools. I will say this with AI tools. Um, the good news is there are lots of them. They are getting better every day. They're relatively easy to use. It's the kind of thing where you can drag your lesson, all of your text and your readings and even your syllabus. You can drag that into some of these AI tools and have the AI tool basically create a video from scratch that incorporates all of the pieces of your lesson. You can do multiple different AI tools where you sort of start in one to get an idea. You turn that idea into an outline. You turn that outline into a script. You send that script to the video AI video tool, and it creates it for you. Lots of options. One of several negatives, though. The biggest, as with all AI, there are the caveats and the negatives about ethics of using AI, copyright issues with AI, um, cultural questions about what AI is showing. All of those exist in AI video tools as well, and you need to be aware of them. Um, More directly, though, those are certainly things to think about, but more directly to your particular courses, if you're using these AI tools, it's taking you, your face, your voice, your personality out of your course. And while that's okay to some extent, we want to make sure that we're not just doing that. We want you to be in your course. We want them to see your face. We want them to see your voice. Because just at its most basic, that is a quintessential engagement with students on your part. Here's the last part. Here's my shameless plug this whole thing has just been one big advertisement for you to come um, avail yourselves of our services here. We've got a big studio. We've got a lab here, which is over here to my left right now, and I'm sitting in the recording seat that you would be sitting in. So I know that you've been looking at this video, and if you've got my little picture in picture up at the top and can see me, this whole time you've been thinking, "My gosh, how does Brad look so good? His is it a new shampoo? Has he lost weight? What's No, it's none of that stuff. I've got lights on in here. If I could pick up my camera and turn off my background and all, I've got a big light there. I've got two lights here and two more lights shining on the green screen behind me. Lighting is a huge, huge part that I didn't really go over with as far as the technical pieces. Um, One of the very, very biggest things about recording video and having high quality video is having really good lighting. So the point that I'm making with this is that if you come here to our studio, we've got all these great lights and we can make a really, really high quality video of you. The video that you're seeing of me right now, if you see my little picture in picture, is just through my webcam. But using our 4K video camera that's in front of me there, and all of my lights and the green screen that's behind me, you get just really, really high quality video. Um, we can make you look like you're in a newscast. It's like I says, high resolution news quality video with the green screen. We can also help you do a lot of these little pieces, like help you write, direct, help you make that PowerPoint so that it looks good behind you and it's kind of shifted off to the side. So you're on one part of the screen and right over your shoulder, like a newscast, is your PowerPoint. We can do all alternative setups here for if you're doing an interview and you have two people that are talking, we can do two different cameras and cross with a cross view, sort of 60 minutes style to switch those in and out. We can do some of this on location. We can bring cameras to you to some extent. We don't have a huge van that we can all this stuff around in, but for most things, we can come to you if you have something that's location specific. We can do that over the shoulder, uh, uh, hand examples that we talked about earlier. We can do all sorts of different types of screen recordings here because we've got the software for it. So please reach out to us, elearning-design at ualr.edu. That will come to my team and I, and then we will get back to you to schedule a time and let you see our schedules about when to come in and do this. And I want you to think about it this way. In addition to doing all the chunking and all of the designing a good PowerPoint that's got a consistent theme and all these kinds of things, think about this. One of the big reasons to do a really, really high quality recording of either your course introduction. We want you to have in your ultra classes at the very top in your start here section an introduction of who you are. So you're introducing yourself to your students. This is a great place to do that. And the beautiful part about that is, and with these other types of videos that you can do, is you record it once in high quality and you can use it over and over. It's going to have a much longer shelf life going down the road, that unless your curriculum changes or unless something very specific like that, like curriculum changes, you're going to be able to use that for years down the road. So you record it once, it's high quality, it looks good, and it doesn't age nearly as quickly as just a recording a screen, a webcam recording from your office or your kitchen table or wherever you might be recording from. So yeah, consider that. I absolutely invite you to come use these services. I would love for us to get a whole lot more use out of this lab, and talk to us about coming up with ideas and thinking of ways to get the most out of these videos. And we will definitely be here to help you with that. And that's it. We've got time for questions. But that's my whole presentation there. If you'd like to, you can come off of mute and just talk to me. Let me see you turn your camera on. Let me hear what you have to say. I'll answer as many questions as I can or make something up.
Brad, are you going to share a copy of this? I see
Yes.
it's being recorded and the slides.
Yes, absolutely. I will have both of those, the recording and the slideshow, and I'll put it, I guess I'll share that as a uh through Google. I don't know. I'll come up with something clever.
But you'll share it as both, given what you've said. Your
I'll
PowerPoint
do it. I got
standalone?
the sky's the limit. I can do all of these
Yeah.
things, right?
Okay, so I do have a question. So from very pragmatic purposes, what can we do at home? So at home, I've got a green screen. I've got kind of this mechanism, I've just got the green tablecloth, not
Mhm.
tablecloth, but the green background I bought. So So if I'm going to spend $50 just to kind of enhance what I'm doing at home for very pragmatic purposes, what should I spend that $50 on?
That's a fantastic question, and this is getting to the one of the most important pieces of this, lighting. I tell that to everybody. Um, Lots of different lights that you can buy. I have these LED panel lights here, right here to my, as you can see, that's shining on this hand. I've got another one back here behind me. You see how bright that is on my hand there? That's about 3 feet away that direction and about 3 feet away in this direction. I've got another bigger, more expensive light there. You don't need all these big, gigantic ones, but you do need probably one or two of these on stands like I have these. These panel lights are about this big. They're LED and they're very, very bright. That's the key. We assume that having a small lamp or a small little ring light, a lot of times you can buy a ring light that clips onto your around your
Hmm.
webcam and it's, probably about that big and it just clips there. Not bright enough at all. Not even close. The way to get quality, well, I'll put it this way: the darker your environment is when you're filming, and this goes for both video and photographs, the more you're having to ask your camera to compensate. And when it compensates, it usually does that by making things lower quality. The shadows get all crinkly and junky. The resolution, even though it's a high resolution, it might be a high resolution camera, it can only process so much darkness. So you really need these lights on to do all this. The other thing that might help with your green screen, I've got two lights here behind me, and their only purpose is to light my green screen in the back to keep it a solid, clear, even light. If you're having problems with corners of your green screen being fuzzy and things like that, or your green screen recording rather, your background being fuzzy and weird, it's probably because you don't have enough light on your green screen. But the main thing, $50, get might be a little more than 50, I'm sorry to say, but probably not too much, probably less than 100 to get one of these LED panel lights. They're I would pull it over. Can you let's see. I'll get this really close to that's funny. It's like an invisible magic wand here because the green screen. Um anyway, that was you get the idea there. Again,
Okay.
it's about this size, and they're only like this thick. They're not big bulbs. It's a panel of a bunch of dot LEDs, but they're super bright, and that's the key. That's almost always my first answer. How do I get better videos? More light.
And those lights are going to be placed in such a way so that they are facing you, but you're not looking into them. You're not blinded by them, but
Exactly.
they're facing you from angles, the way you're pointing.
45 to 30-degree angles. This one's actually more than 45, and this one's actually behind me, giving me a you know, a nice bald head shine is what it is. That's what I'm going for here. Um, and then I've got another big one here that's softer, bigger, so it's putting out a lot more spread light. It's what's called an octobox, and it's probably 3 feet across, three feet by 3 feet up above me. And
Okay.
but that's overkill for what you need at home. One or two of these LED panel lights, you can get them on Amazon. You can get them from probably Walmart. Best Buy, I believe, has them.
Well, and I want to just add because I know we have some math and chemistry folks on the call too, although it could also be helpful for social work. We do have on order a light board, if you guys are familiar with those. So if you pretend to be Iron Man and you want to write in the air, that's kind of what it looks like. By the time you're done with the effect, it will be something that lives in the lab. I'll link a quick little YouTube video here if you kind of want to see what the end effect looks like. But for those of you, especially who need to write out formulas or flow charts or anything like that, it's something that's going to look really cool. And I think will help kind of draw your students into. You don't have to learn how to write backwards. It will look like you're writing backwards, but you're able to maintain eye contact with the camera and write, and then in post-production, like it's flipped, whatever you're writing. And so that's something that's really, really cool. Yeah, we're excited about that. We'll definitely let you guys know whenever it's here.
Yeah.
Super helpful. I got another meeting, but thank you. Another great workshop. Appreciate you all.
Thank you for joining us. Anybody else? Any other questions? Professor Bayouth, Professor Jackson, Professor Humphers, any questions, comments?
No, I appreciate all the information. No question right now.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad that you joined us today, and we'll have more of these.
Thanks for coming.
Have more of these coming up throughout the year. We try to do them semi-regularly.
Cool.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.